through tonight's MLB slate. Big, huge tournament on DK with the 1500 for 250K for first. So definitely going to be getting in there and hopefully have a big day today. I actually did okay last night. Like I finished, I think 20th in the 888, which helped. I was very live there. I had the most time remaining, and I was in like the top 30. Nobody in the top 100 had more time than me because I had a full ace stack with Strider and Gray. So it was looking pretty good. I just didn't have the exact right A's. I had Rooker and I had the first baseman, which was amazing because he was like 4% owned, who both had 2 home runs. But I had Langoliers instead of the other catcher. That would have hurt. And then I could have used any of the Diaz instead of the Diaz I used. But we're on to bigger and better things. Sheets, is there anything you have sort of an overall take on this slate before we jump into the game by game?
Yes, I do actually. First of all, what's going on with my screen share here?
It's hiccuping a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with it actually. Hang on, let me try something else.
Okay. Yeah, so we'll
oh, there it is. Yeah, I actually have an opinion on this slate. So first of all, listen, just to share my not my tilt, but whatever, just share, my humanness. So so last night I actually played I played Matt Boyd in the big one, which actually he did pretty nicely.
Well, yeah, nice.
And I played Atlanta, as you know, with both the ball 4. Bobby and I were kind of slugging it out for a little while over there. Then kind of some of my complimentary guys sort of fizzled, and Bassett kind of fizzled, and when he fizzled, he got off to a terrible start.
No, he was fine. He just got hurt.
Oh, I thought that he did well. I mean, he gave up 2 runs in the first inning or whatever. So.
Oh, but he was pitching in the
seventh. They still pitched 19 outs. I mean, how much more was he going to go?
Yeah, he pitched 7. No, he literally could have thrown a complete game. Like he was definitely had a chance.
So anyway, so that's what I last night. And today I actually have like $300 I have to make up because I was going to play the League of Legends slate today, and I violated my first rule. First rule is that when you enter something like early, at the very least, like put in some reasonable lineup in case you forget. And I forgot. I just put in completely like 10 random players, and duped it 15 times. And forgot when it started. I got involved in a lot of other business related stuff. And I just oh my God, did it start? So I basically have 15 duped lineups that are like basically all substitutes. So so I got $300 to make up. I don't know if the 1,500 is the way to make up a $300 thing, because you can't make up 300 in the 1,500. You have to either make up 4,000 or nothing, pretty much.
Or 2.
But I'm going to play it. I'm going to play it tonight, and I got to tell you, I don't know whether they do this on purpose or not. They obviously don't, but to me, this is a totally impossible slate. Like I'm looking at my pitchers. I mean, I could play 10 pitchers. I mean, honestly, like I really have no idea. And I'm looking at my stacks. I have like a billion things I could do. So I honestly have no idea. I mean, I'm kind of hoping that we could talk through some of this and I can get a little bit of a little more direction. And then because the problem is I'm also not going to be around live. So it's gonna be rough for me to have a good shot in this one. But I'm gonna do my best. Hopefully we can get through some of this today and in this session, because I don't know what I want to do. But let's I guess we just get right to it.
Yeah, let's get into it, because I totally feel you, and to me that actually makes me a little bit excited. I feel like there's just a lot of there is a lot of ways to go. It's very interesting to see like Joe Ryan being the most popular pitcher against the Yankees. I believe, did he face the Yankees already? I think he did. Whoever he faced a couple of weeks ago, and it was a 15-game slate, and he was like 8K, and he was like 1% owned. And now you have him at 10-5 on a full 9-game slate with a lot of questionable options, and he's supposed to be 40%. It's just very interesting how
is anybody 40% on today's slate?
Well, because there's only 9 games. You have to have 2 pitchers. It's basically impossible mathematically that there wouldn't be somebody 40%, even if that guy's not a great play. You know what I'm saying? But okay, so let's get into it with the first 2 of the night.
By the way, we are going to go live tonight at 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
Why don't you talk about the other thing too? Like the
yeah. We'll be doing a live roundtable discussion / coaching session, sort of doing what I used to do when I was coaching. And Sheets will go over some of his process. And we're going to talk with Scott McCarty, who's been a member. He's been really active in the Discord and the chats. He always pops in. We're excited to do it with him. And we're going to see how it goes. And anybody else who's interested, feel free to DM me and we will set up something to try and do with you guys. We're going to try and make it, as of right now, we're just doing a once a month thing. But if we have the interest and you guys really want to do this, I think it really helps people get better. We've had some, people like Adam Perry and people like K9 Bronco who've done it with us before, really said they appreciate it, they found it valuable. And even if you don't do that part with us, I think it's still really valuable for people to see from a teaching perspective. We talk a lot about really not just wanting to talk about play, is really trying to talk about process and make things better. And Sheets is doing that every day when he does his, when we do the live before lock, where he's actually building his lineups and I'm showing everybody what I'm doing. And we just want to offer you guys like the best ways to get better at DFS instead of just saying, okay, here are the guys we like every night, even though we're doing that as well. And yes, it will be, Rich, it'll be live and it will be posted on YouTube. So if you'll totally be able to watch it on YouTube. Absolutely after. And Rich, you might find this valuable down the road. So maybe we could even talk about if you're ever interested in doing it. So that gets that out of the way. With that said, let's get into the games. Right off the bat, this is the guy who you have the guy who I sort of, you always say that I get him right. I don't know that I always get him right, but I think my strategy with Barrios has been good to me. Look, he's got to be on the list today because he's facing the White Sox, and anybody facing the White Sox kind of has to be on the list at this point. But I don't feel good about it. And I feel like this could be a nightmare for Clevenger. And I am, as you know, somewhat of a Clevenger guy that I think that he's still got something at times that he can tap into. You can't miss the strike zone that often against this Toronto team, whether it means it leads to home runs or you're just walking too many guys. I think you're putting yourself in a really dangerous position. So Toronto is a priority for me, one of the priority stacks. Now, there's a lot of ways to go today, so you're going to hear me say this about some other teams, and I'm going to have to narrow my pools. But as of right now, I actually like Toronto quite a bit. And Clevenger is a guy who, with a wide range of outcomes. Barrios projected to be probably 15 to 20% owned. That's probably around the range I'd have him. If I had 4 huge lineups tonight, I don't know that he makes any of them, but he probably ends up sneaking into one. That's the way I look at this game.
Anything up to the hitters?
Toronto.
Okay.
Toronto, and I don't think you need to get creative with it like we were trying to do with Lance Lynn and play lefty. I just think that you play the Toronto guys who are in the lineup. Favorite bats would be Vlad and Chapman because they're always Vlad and Chapman. And then I would go for Bichette and Springer a little bit lower down the tier. Actually, I think Varsho would be third for me. But the whole lineup all the way through looks pretty good. You might be able to get it different with the stack because it's going to have some ownership with a Brandon Belt play, but he's probably going to have some ownership too. So it's just a matter of what you want to do. But I do think this is a really, really interesting stack tonight.
When I first took a look at this slate before projections came out, I like doing this just to see who I would play, of knowing nothing. So there's a little bit of wisdom to that sometimes. Mm-hmm. I was running into this issue about when I would try to settle on a pitcher, I would either have a pitcher against who I wasn't too confident in, or that the pitcher I kind of liked, but the matchup wasn't so great. And it was really funny because at the end of the night, when I was going to save my dummy lineup, it was actually going to be Barrios. Of all these options, he was going to be one of them. And then, of course, I get because you know what, he's pitching well enough. The White Sox are kind of poor enough. It's predictable enough. You know what I mean? And again, not a great option, but I kind of had him at the top. And then, of course, I did my projection this morning, and then I have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9-way tie for first, and then Barrios just behind them. You know what I mean? So I have no idea what I'm going to do. But what I will say is that I didn't get to Clevenger at all, and I got to probably because I got to Toronto as the top. Okay, it's the top rated stack overall, but getting a lot of ownership, I think. So you're gonna have to decide what you want to do. Now, I think that because I'm having the similar trouble with pitching and everything, that I think a lot of people will, and so I think that there's not going to be some big, huge chalk. So I think you don't have to worry about ownership as much today. But so Toronto, yes, I agree with you. And I think Barrios on a very, very long list of pitchers, right?
Yep. All right, so let's move on.
Let's put him in to start, and then we'll see what else.
Yeah, of the first two, I think he's the better option. So getting into the next one, I don't think you're not worrying about any pitchers from this game, this Mets game, right? Is that what
I am actually.
You're getting to him? Okay. I guess Budo, or however you pronounce it, is okay. I still don't know if I feel great about it, but he's on the list. Whatever. I should have. I guess I'll put him on the list. He's a cheap. See, the problem I have with a play like this, I just want to say real quick. The only problem is, while we have all these mid-range guys and nobody looks all that great, just when everybody's that solid, it seems like two of them will have games. And Budo, I think you're kind of hoping for like 10 or 15 fantasy points. So honestly, like, I think if we're gonna mention him, I think that we should at least mention Josiah Gray. Now, it's a nightmare type of a matchup for Josiah Gray, based on the old Josiah Gray. We have to accept that this kid is maybe changed some things. Unfortunately, it means his strikeouts are down, but he's keeping the ball on the ground more. His control has been better, although he walked 4 guys in his last game. And he may be coming into his own. This was a top pitching prospect in baseball a couple years ago, sort of in a terrible situation there in Washington in general. And you definitely can stack the Mets here, but I think that this is another team that I expect to get some ownership. And I don't know that maybe we've seen some changes from Gray now. So I have the Mets on my list, and I guess I'll put Budo in / Gray as like very long shot plays. But I'm maybe going to be a little lower on the Mets in the field. The only thing is, because they're expensive for the guys you want, they may end up being a little bit lower owned than people think. So getting some Mets exposure certainly makes sense at first look, but you're going to hear that from a lot of teams today. How do you do?
Yeah, so I have Budo as like the 9th pitcher on my list. That's the only reason I mention it. I didn't get to Gray, and I definitely think the Mets are going to be in play. But again, if they're going to get owned, I might get greedy and go somewhere else. I also am not opposed to some Washingtons here and there. Now Budo, from whatever it is, I mean, I from what I read, he does keep the ball on the ground. You know what I mean? So it's not exactly the greatest kind of young guy to go after. But if I get to like a Meneses and literally 2 good hitters on the team, I forget the other one. Him and the other guy, whoever it is, I'm not gonna knock him out. So I haven't seen Washington as small value, but again, I'm looking for some sign of the gods to tell me which way to go, and it's probably not going to be the Mets. In the end of the day, they're going to rate high, but I just think they're going to be too owned. I think I'm going to be a little greedier, and it's definitely, in the end of the day, I'm not going to play Budo in the big buy-in, and I'm definitely not going to play Josiah Gray in the big buy-in.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough. All right. And it's kind of, we got a nice little staggering at the beginning of the slate tonight. It's kind of, everything is a few minutes apart. 7:20 game, the Atlanta, Miami. I am siding with, look, I understand there's some overall concerns. The first guy that I put in my lineups that I felt like okay with looking at, I'll play Charlie Morton. Yeah,
this is it. These are the 2 I have right here.
He's the one who I felt probably the best about. And that's what I'm doing. I don't know how Atlanta is not like, this is why that maybe the Mets and these other teams that we keep saying are going to be popular don't get popular. I don't know how Atlanta ends up low owned tonight.
Well, because because everybody's like 8K. You see some of these prices.
They're the easiest stack to get in of all teams. You should know that. Look at they've got 3 outfielders that are 2,500 or less. How
about our hero last night, the leader of the free world, Sam Hilliard, with the
exactly
right.
And you did the thing that I just am not willing to do very often. I will stack Atlanta. You have to make decisions between Albies, Olsen, and Riley usually when you stack them, and Murphy, I guess. But I'm just not usually willing to go against to not play Acuna if I'm stacking Atlanta. It's just
right.
There's too much upside. Even his down games, although yesterday was a really bad one, but it certainly makes sense on smaller slates to do it. if I played them today, I would want to stack him. So I do have Atlanta as the top stack right now, but I also think that they will be the most popular of the teams we've talked about. And I just don't think that they're hard to get in at all. I think it's a misconception because what you do have to do is you have to sacrifice very valuable positions in your outfield to play guys like Rosario, who finally hit a home run last night for like the first time, it feels like, since the Dodgers series 2 years ago. And Hilliard, who just had an insane game. But you can go ahead and play those guys. Like, there's nothing wrong with playing those guys with Acuna, and then you use 2 of the infielders, or you can try to stack without Acuna. But I probably am gonna. I mean, like, my first build had Morton and it had Acuna and it had a 4-man Brave stack paired with another team.
You gonna pay the 59 for Olsen, lefty righty?
What's that? Say that one time?
You're gonna pay the 5,900 for Olsen?
Sure, no problem.
Yeah.
I mean, the problem is deciding between Riley, Olsen, Albies is always a little bit tricky. Yeah. And there are usually better plays at first base. That's where Atlanta does end up lower owned than they should be sometimes, because you're paying $1 million for Olsen and $1 million for Acuna at the strongest positions in baseball.
Right.
What do you have this one with Morton? You like Morton, obviously.
He's fine. You know what I mean? Again, I want full. Again, he was the guy I had, you know, in my just, okay, I've heard of him. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, he hasn't been great, but he's been serviceable, and it's home against Miami. You know what I mean? Like, so I shouldn't say home against Miami is good. Actually, I guess you prefer it be in Miami as far as the park goes. So I don't know. I don't know. I've kind of changed my mind, I think, as to my preferred guys, which we're going to get to. But Morton's certainly on my list. You know, it just hasn't hit me yet what I'm actually going to do. But he's definitely he's got that profile. Like, the price is totally good. His talent and, you know, long-term talent is good. You know what I mean? He's not like in elite form right now. You know what I mean? But he's got a good matchup, and it's probably just a good dude to throw in there and be safe enough that he gets between 13 and 20. You know what I mean? Like, something like that. He's the one thing about me that I like about him, and you mentioned this a lot, is he does have a leash.
Yeah.
As opposed to, it's funny, you know, I look back at Berrios, and they haven't let him pitch. I mean,
yeah, some of it's been circumstantial too.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
Oh, some of it, but there is
none of them. I mean, like, nothing over 90 the whole season.
Yeah, I mean, but again, like, let's not, like, partly he doesn't get himself in the same trouble that Morton gets himself into. So he can go 7. He pitched 7 full innings last game.
That's true. That's true.
And they were down. I mean, I don't know, whatever.
Okay.
Like, yeah, but I mean, for what it's worth, I mean, like, Berrios' team, like, he's only had one good matchup this season, and he was bad in that matchup, which was KC. He had to face the Angels, he had to face Houston, and then Tampa Bay, who he was really good against, which was the day that I was highest on him. But you're right, though, that it's a little concerning. But that's, you know, we were saying about Sonny Gray when they wouldn't let him come back out for the 6th inning in his last start, but then he throws 110 pitches last night.
Yeah.
You know, it's just a little bit hard to gauge with some of these teams. But I do think in general, the Blue Jays like their setup and their closer, so it doesn't really matter. They're not going to try to leave the reliever out there, for the starter out there for the extra 8th and 9th. But it doesn't matter because we don't usually get an 8th and 9th out of our starting pitchers these days anyway. All right, let's move on.
So I don't know why we'd want to, you know, pick any pitchers against, like, the best team in baseball, that being the Tigers. But just for fun,
team in baseball with the worst record in baseball. That's the one you're talking about.
Yeah. But just for fun, I guess Eric Lauer's got to be the play at the end of the day. I mean, now I'm looking at this, like, he's got, I mean, just the game log watch, he's got three out of his 4 starts will totally take, and all of them, those 3 starts were on the road against teams much better than Detroit. And he's only whatever only means, 8,800. And I think I like him better than Berrios. So I would, as I'm just doing this, right, I'm going to move Lauer to the top of the list at this point. So it would be Lauer. I didn't quite get to the Milwaukee hitting, didn't get to the Tigers hitting as well. And Spencer Turnbull at 5K or whatever the hell he is, he's on the list as well. And I'm telling you, when I build these MME things, I'm going to end up with like every pitcher. But as far as the big ones, he's not going to make it for me. So right now, now I'm moving to the Eric Lauer, Charlie Morton pairing is my top right now.
Yeah, I do have Lauer as a strong play. I'm just checking the run total because I'm looking at the SaberSim. It's actually higher than I would have thought. I mean, I am a little surprised to see the Detroit with like a 4-run total. Okay, so I am not a guy who usually plays a ton of Eric Lauer, especially at high prices. He is actually a reasonably good pitcher. His strikeouts worry me. He just doesn't get them. He used to. I don't really know what's happening, but he hasn't been striking anybody out in a while. And he's going to you gotta love the matchup. I honestly don't know what to do with Lauer here. I have a little bit of interest in Turnbull, but more interest in Milwaukee as a stack or at least a mini stack. Turnbull is just another way you can get through innings. And I don't think anyone's playing Milwaukee. And the weird part is Detroit's bullpen has been good this year so far. It's not good. Detroit is not good. They're not a good baseball team. Bad baseball teams, their bullpens only get worse and worse because they end up getting rid of everybody. It hasn't gotten to that point yet. But let's not overrate these performances. There's like some perception here that the A's are good. The A's are the worst team in baseball by a landslide. They're on pace to have the third worst run differential. Sorry, to have 3 times worse than the worst run differential in history. Obviously, we're only talking about 20 some odd games so far, but that's pretty hard to do. Detroit is also a terrible baseball team. They're just god awful. And I think that if you can get to Turnbull early enough, you end up with the really bad mid-relief guys, and maybe you can have an explosion game. The problem with Milwaukee, as I always point out, I wish they walked a little bit more. I wish they took more pitches in general. They don't feel like the kind of team that you should feel good stacking at what you'd think would be some popular ownership. But because the other teams we talked about, I don't see them getting a lot of love. So I have them right now, of all the teams we've talked about, I have them behind Toronto and Atlanta, but not by much. And it really depends on what kind of lineup they release. They keep sitting somebody every day. I'm curious if we get Contreras, Adames, Yelich all in the lineup along with Winker.
Well, you know what? If you get Winker and Tellez for the lefties, and Yelich, Winker, Tellez, I think Turang is not the worst. And then Adames, I don't care righty left, whatever. So and yeah, if you can get Contreras, and obviously that helps your catcher position. So yeah, I have Milwaukee on the list of was there 18? Was there 9 games? I have like 18 teams I can play. So Milwaukee is definitely in there. But in all seriousness, I mean, they have to be a decent play.
Yeah,
they just have to be.
Yep. Okay, so let's look over at the next one, which is I believe the Cubs game.
No, I have Yankees, Minnesota.
I don't know why they don't line these up, and it's really annoying because I have to juggle through every screen to try to find out which game you're talking about. Why doesn't SaberSim do that? Every other site does it. We should talk to them about it. Just having the slate written out the same way DraftKings has it written out when we're on the DraftKings page, so I don't have to juggle.
Yeah, so these are 2 guys that we definitely have to talk about as candidates to eclipse one of these 2 as the running leaders for the top pitcher. These guys are both good, and the opponent can give up fantasy points. The opponent can also hit the ball a little bit, but I definitely think both these guys are in play. I mean, Ryan and Cortez. I don't know which one I prefer. I have them both rated pretty much the same, price adjusted. And I'm hoping to get some insight from you on because these are 2 guys are both in play. I don't know what to do with them. I just don't.
Right now, I think you're supposed to play both of these guys. Honestly,
well, that solves that problem.
Well, I feel like that. I mean, we're just betting. Like again, the Yankees. Look at the lineup. Look who's hitting 6 through 9 for the Yankees. Those are not guys. Those guys would all be number 9 hitters at best on another team. Look at the top of the Yankees lineup. There's no like Josh Donaldson. Obviously, he was struggling anyway, but there's no Josh Donaldson. There's no Giancarlo Stanton. It's not that great of a lineup. And even guys like Volpe is still young. Like I don't know. They obviously can have their big boom moments, but the currently constructed lineup for the Yankees is not crazy impressive. I don't like paying these prices for Cortez in general, but it's just like the nature of the slate, and he's good enough, and I feel very solid about getting close to 20 or a little bit more from him. But I mean, look, these guys are probably right up there for me. On top of it, they're pitching in 50-degree weather with winds blowing in from left field. Benefits Cortez even more because any righty that ball ends up on the warning track could be the difference of a good start and a bad start. Just from a little bit of wind in the cold temps. I'm not really doing anything with the hitting in this game. I am interested in both pitchers quite a bit. They would definitely at least be on one of my 4 biggest lineups, at least. But I don't think I can make an easy case that you don't play them or play the game. If I had to pick anybody to play in this game, it would be Judge or Buxton. No shocker, but I'm certainly not trying to play anybody from this game.
Okay, so San Diego, Chicago. I mean, so why is Snell any worse than any of these others? So Snell is a similar price to some of these other guys we talked about. He's got well, I should ask about the weather in a minute, but
yeah, it's very, very good pitching weather.
Well, I mean that I presume moves him to the top of the list. I'm a little nervous about something that you had said before his last start. For his last start, we were talking about some other pitcher or something like that, and you said, well, why are everybody so convinced like Aaron Nola or whoever it was like washed? But no one's saying the same thing about Blake Snell, who hasn't gotten anybody out the whole season. And you could be right. You know what I mean? Like, you could be right. Now, in fairness, he's had Atlanta twice and the Mets in his last 3 starts.
Yeah, that's no picnic.
So that is no picnic. But the pitcher is supposed to have the edge in baseball. You know what I mean? Like, you gotta be able to put up something. So maybe. Maybe Justin Steele is a better pitcher than Blake Snell right
now. I don't think that would be a hot take at all. I think that most people agree with that.
Yeah. Now I don't know if I. Okay, so I was about to say I don't know if I have it in me to pay 10-1 for anybody against San Diego. But now what you're telling me about the wind blowing in too is that maybe that's not the worst play I've ever made. So again, I'm looking for insight. But even though Snell has just done. Maybe I'll put it another way. I was about to say, even though Snell has done nothing, given the fact that the wind is what it is and his matchup is what it is, maybe I'm supposed to play him. But maybe he's going to end up really popular because of the wind, and maybe I should fade him anyway.
Yeah, I don't know what to do. I'm planning on playing him. I think he's had the nightmare matchups for him, and he just gets himself, it's really hard to play him, like in general, because he just gets himself in so much trouble and just deep in every count. And just, even if he has a leash, but his leash is to get him through 5 innings. Like, I worry a little bit about upside. I can't ignore the matchup being extremely good. Now, I'd rather have a righty against the Cubs if I had to choose, but I will take a lefty against the Cubs. And I understand that they've got some decent hitting numbers this year. I'm not worried about that. I think both these pitchers are heavily in play. It's just a tough matchup for Steele, but like he keeps dominating and including in tough matchups. So both of these guys are on the short list for me as of right now, with 41 degrees and 10 miles an hour blowing in from left in Chicago. That sounds like a pretty good situation to try and play the pitchers.
All right.
Snell can pitch to contact a little enough so he can like maybe get through 5 innings. That would be helpful.
Okay, so this. I will go on the limb. Okay, so this is the best play.
I'm with you on this. We're actually going to be in agreement.
Yeah, I'll give you some key numbers. Why the Griffin Canning is the best play. Mm-hmm. I'm going to give you, and it's not the same numbers you would give me, right? Number one is however many losses Oakland has for the season. I don't know what that number is, whatever that is. They're really bad. Okay. Second thing I would mention is this number 11. Okay. Oakland's just coming off an 11-run performance in their last game in some wild freaking shootout. Okay. I love to fade teams like that anyway. And the other key number is this one, 100. Okay. From Griffin Canning. Okay. Didn't exactly have the greatest game, but not a bad game either. and they let him pitch 100 pitches. So you give me 100 pitches against Oakland coming off of a 11-run performance. This just has to be the answer. So that's what I like. And then the Angels against whoever Miller is, I think the Angels are a good play as well. So Canning with Angels, I think, is where I'm going.
Yeah. So I'm totally agreement about Canning. For what it's worth, a little better hitting weather than most state places today, just because there's a lot of bad hitting places.
Okay.
But I'm totally on the same page. Oakland basically has been the worst offense in baseball. Canning 6,400, and I don't care about team score. Every team is going to score 11 runs at some point this season. Like, doesn't matter that the A's have had some score. And we could say whatever we want. The fact is, they're still significantly the worst team in baseball. It's really not all that close right now. I mean, you could argue against the Royals might be worse, but I am totally cool with taking a shot on Canning. I actually, if you wanted to play devil's advocate, I'm not going to argue with the idea of taking shots on some of the cheap Oakland guys. I have no problem with that, but I'm definitely siding with the Canning thing right now. And I'm a little, if you're going to play a pitcher who's 5,500, like you were talking about earlier, why wouldn't we play Mason Miller instead?
Who is that?
He's the pitcher for the A's.
No, I know, but I mean, is he like a real person?
He's a young guy. You know, his strikeout numbers were really good at the lower levels. They brought him up. I don't know exactly how old he is. Let me just see, because that always is a thing to me. I like them to be like 24, 23, 24. He's 24. Yeah, I think that there's an outside chance that he has his last two starts, by the way, in the minors, he struck out 19 guys and had 0 walks and gave up 1 hit. I like the idea of getting a little weird, so I'm even including him in my pool. Now, that's just a really get weird play, but I understand the argument for the Angels and for Oakland today as far as stacks go. I probably will have a hedge Oakland like mini stack somewhere. I'm not really getting to the Angels, and I don't think other people are really going to get to the Angels that much either, which is kind of weird coming off of a big day.
Dude, this is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to throw out some of these teams, and I'm hoping that you're like, dude, that's exactly what I was thinking. I'm all over this. I'm just kind of throwing them out there, and nothing seems to be.
Yeah, I don't have that same love for the Oakland stack as you or the
Angels, but I don't. That's the whole thing. I was kind of feeling it out. I was throwing it out there. You know what I mean?
Well, but I'm totally fine with it. I just personally, it's not one of my favorites compared to some of the games we have earlier. But
we got other games still, so maybe we'll get to this last.
But I actually feel pretty good so far about narrowing a little bit where I was going to go, because for a while I didn't want to mention 18 teams, and I'm saying the arguments for these teams, but I'm not realistically trying to stack the A's up tonight. That's not what I'm going in tonight trying to do by any means. But I do think that getting like a mini stack, if I'm not playing Canning is the way to go. Canning was the other first pitcher I put in.
What is the weather situation in Arizona?
So I'm going to double check the roof being open or not. I'm guessing it's open because they like to keep it open as long as it's under 100 degrees. Roof status in Arizona.
And just for everybody, roof open means better for hitting, right?
Yeah. It's just especially because it's in the heat there.
I'm off of this game. I'm getting actually open. That's actually not true. I'm actually, believe it or not, getting to some Kansas City, gross as it is. So yeah. So I'm getting to some Kansas City. Why wouldn't I? They can't win any games and they're on the road. But that's kind of where I am.
You're off of this game? Oh, okay.
No, I'm on Kansas City.
Oh, you're on Kansas City.
And I'm not really getting to Zona, although I don't have it in me to play Brady Singer in this particular wind condition. I mean, weather condition.
Doesn't really.
I don't know.
I guess it depends on how you look at those things. And yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I don't know. I guess a little bit of Kansas City. That's definitely a possibility. But I don't think I'm going to get to the pitching. But maybe we should. Maybe we just keep playing Brady Singer until he loses all our money. Maybe that's possible.
Well, I mean, in all fairness, he hasn't had one even okay matchup. The teams that he's faced the last, San Francisco is really tough on righties. Atlanta, we know Atlanta, and then Texas. That's no picnic. And then Toronto before that. And then Texas before that, and San Diego before that. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, this is the best matchup he's had all year by a landslide. When we're trying to decide between all these other pitchers, why don't we
just X out the first all the 740 games, play Canning, Singer, and the Angels, and you know what I mean, and then just
something like that. I don't
for zero. Take something to the live sweat later tonight. Always have something to root for.
Yeah, okay. I think there's something there, but I am gonna be playing as much as I'm like I'll have a Singer lineup. I think actually probably a pretty big buy-in. I do think that both of these offenses are really just in awesome spots. Kansas City, terrible bullpen. If you get past Singer early, they're going to have some ownership. But honestly, I kind of think maybe it shouldn't be more. I do think it's going to be hard to find guys less. Like, there's a lot of ways to get them in. There's a lot of value out there. I am going to have a lot of exposure to this game. It's just going to depend on how high owned it is. Because, like, I have Witt being the most popular shortstop. If Melendez play, I have him as one of the most popular plays on the slate. Corbin Carroll will be extremely popular. Ketel Marte, who has been struggling, so is Rojas, are both going to be really popular. I do think the Arizona guys are going to be a little more popular than, well, I don't know. It depends who's KC releases in their lineup. Massey, depending on where he hits, is 2,300 at second base. There's just a lot of ways to go with this. I'm a little bit more on the KC side than I am Arizona, but I'm just going to put a big in KC/Arizona. And my favorite of the get weird pitchers is Brady Singer.
Okay, so I will throw in my 2 cents here. Okay, so if you didn't like any of that, all right, you have St. Louis against San Francisco. Now they're doing some funny business with the rotation with the San Francisco. They're taking Manaea, putting him in the long relief, whatever it is. I don't think I can do that. But we talked about Jake Woodford the other day, and we talked about how he just can't get a single person to miss bats, and this profile of fantasy points is indicative of somebody that you want to go after. And if I'm not mistaken, you just mentioned that San Francisco is pretty good against righties.
Mm-hmm.
So how about we stick to the plan of doing some stupid stuff when the West Coast games are the pitching, or maybe not, but we just let it all go on the freaking Giants. All right, I'm down. You know what I mean? I'm looking for something to do. And I'm kind of down for that because I know that Woodford is going to throw the ball to the baseball bat. You know what I mean? And I'm not going to swing and miss it his stuff, so I'm not going to get frustrated that way. I might get frustrated if these guys swing and like hit fly balls and I was about to say Candlestick. Look how dated I am. And Candlestick holds it back or something like that. And I'm sure that's what you're going to tell me next. Dude, San Francisco is 34 degrees and the wind's blowing in from both ways at 47 miles an hour.
Wow.
But how about can I get you on San Francisco?
100%.
Oh, we're in. That's it. It took us till 12:15, but we got there. Okay.
I am fully in on it.
Okay.
I love them. I actually have them as my 5th favorite stack, but when you factor in the ownership.
How many home runs can Jock Peterson hit in one game?
Well, how about this? How about the fact that they say they're tough on righties and they just got Jock Peterson and Mitch Haniger back? These are actually good MLB players.
Mitch Haniger is on the Giants.
So let's go. Yeah, it was one of their guys they went after.
Michael Conforto. So is Michael Conforto going to be out?
Conforto should be in.
I was going to say Haniger wouldn't replace Conforto. Okay.
They should both be in.
Okay. There's the San Francisco outfield. Let's go.
Yeah, the San Francisco outfield looks awesome. Going to be a very hard team to play with, very difficult team to play with the Braves because of the outfield. you can't really get a double stack going.
Whatever. I mean, dude, I find one team. I can't worry about 2 right now.
They're a strange team to stack, but I absolutely love the idea of doing it. And I think I'd go all the way through. And it really depends on who's in the lineup. Like, they do have platoon ability if St. Louis wants to bring in a lefty. I'll do a little research and see how many lefties St. Louis has in the bullpen. But actually, San Francisco has balanced out their lineup a little bit better, where they can sort of go more righty lefty than they did in the past. It used to be like 7 lefties in a row, then 2 righties at the bottom of the order. It was really weird. But like, I'm curious to see how the lineup shakes out. I think this game ends up really low owned, and I am on board, Sheets. Like I like the idea of getting after this. It's also, I mean, this is not much, but it's the warmest it's been in San Francisco for any game this season during the evening. It's at 60 degrees. The wind doesn't matter, but it is 60 degrees there, which is just on my cusp of when I want to play them. I love the idea of it. And I think that even if you're not playing it as a stack, Haniger, Jock, Lamont and Wade, if he leads off, Conforto, these guys are all, and Yaz, are all really strong plays. If Estrada, he's a fine spend up too, even if you want to. Like, he's been unbelievable this year. I'm in on this one.
Right.
Who cares? We all know it's a terrible hitter's park. I don't understand why Eric's pointing that out as if I'm not like the one who helped do the research on this for Roto Grinders and figure out exactly how the wind was affecting it. Obviously, we know San Francisco is not a good hitter's park. That is
you might get Crawford back against the righty at 3K.
Yeah. I'll tell you what else is not a good hitter's park. The Angels have a terrible hitter's park, and look who scored 21 runs last night. So
sure did.
You could win games. And what I love, Sheets, is every time I play the Giants, I never get the chance to do it on a really big day slate because I never really like them enough. But this one I do. So at least when I do, I tend to have good shots at winning tournaments. And if I can, this will be the one that maybe wins one of us the 1,500.
Maybe.
Yeah, so it should be fun.
It's also listen, and by the way, for those of you that want a good system, I'm telling you, you go whatever Sheet says at 12:20 in the afternoon, that he changes his mind on at 6:40, like always smashes. I mean, literally always. From the lock-in Logan Allen to the what you call it? Who's that Mets guy that came off the freaking 2-year layoff? Forget him the other day. Lucchesi for the 30 fantasy points, which I ended up not playing. You know what I mean? Like these are so let's announce Canning and Giants, and then so when I change my mind and I'm like all over like the Braves and the Torontos and the Mets and I don't have any of this stuff, you'll remember that I gave it to you early.
Right. Awesome. I love it. I'm in on all this. I'm really excited for tonight. And we get to, and you know what, Chiefs? We also get to have the live sweat while we get to talk about, hey, how'd they hit back-to-back home runs?
Exactly.
4 in a row while we're live on air, and me and Sheets, who we're bitching about not cashing, all of a sudden are 1-2 in the for the million.
No, it's going to be worse than that because I'm going to stick to my guns. I'm going to have the San Francisco stack, but I will have played Charlie Morton, who gives up 9 runs in the first inning. You know what I mean?
Like that, right? By the way, I'm still going to point out to people, depending on how the slates go, you can still win with bad pitching. Like, it happens a lot.
Yeah.
My biggest wins in baseball this year, I had pitchers in the sub 10 fantasy points. So, all right. Well, good luck to everybody today. I'm going to have my content, my early builds and all that stuff released later today. I've got a ton of practical stuff. Got my big Apple package, so I've got to convert over my computers and my phone and all that stuff. My DraftKings Apple package finally came in. So it should be a fun day, and I'll be live at 6 Eastern. Sheets won't be here. We'll talk through NBA and MLB, and hopefully make a ton of money today.
If you want to do an NBA, we could do that.
I don't think I'm trying to. Today I was trying to set aside a bunch of time to go get these practical things done.
Do that. Much more important. Do that.
Sorry. Well, not necessarily.
No, get that done.
Okay. All right. Well, good luck to everybody, and yeah, we'll see you guys at the top of the leaderboards tonight.